Welcome to the Best Damn Coach podcast. True story. I've started and stopped this recording about 4 times. And I realize sometimes when I do that, that's because I'm so in my head and I'm starting to try to monitor and edit my words. And we don't have time for that here. There's no space for not being transparent and not just saying the things I want to say. And so here we are blowing all that out so that I can bring you the most authentic version of every single episode. So I just needed to start off the episode letting you know that I've recorded some at 300 episodes, and still there's times where I'm like, oh, should I say that? Should I not? Is that going to offend somebody? Are people going to disagree? And the reality is, I don't care actually. And so when I have to sometimes channel that energy of I am me. These are my thoughts and beliefs, and that's why you tune in every week. So I think we just all needed that lesson for a hot moment. And so we're 3 weeks into the year, and I hope that the year is finding you energized and so excited for all the months ahead. And if not, I get you. Totally been there. There's an episode coming out for you at the end of this month that is designed just for you, because I've definitely been in that place, specifically last year, with a little less energy and a lot less clarity and a whole bunch of doubt. And so I just want you to know I hear you. And no matter which kind of side of the street you're on, this episode is most definitely for you, because we're going to talk about how to find clients in 2024. Now, I've been actually preparing for this episode for quite a bit of time. I've been taking notes over the last few months so that I can make sure I say every single thing that I want to about this. And when I have the opportunity to speak to prospective clients, or I'm speaking to a room of people or teaching virtually, inevitably there's two giant questions that come up. The first is usually like, how do I just get better? How do I get more confident in my coaching so that I just show up really awesome for my clients and I don't have doubt? And then also, how do I get more clients, or how do I find my first clients? And so I'm going to go with the latter today and talk about the trends and things that I think are really important as we move into 2024. And in order to do that, though, I want to first spend the time today highlighting some of the things that I think coaches are struggling with, and some things that I've noticed when it comes to finding clients. So, the first thing I notice when it comes to finding clients is that coaches actually resist the very freaking thing that will bring them clients. And that is, you guys, talking about wanting clients, talking about being a coach, talking about wanting to serve people, talking about your offers. And so I will hear from coaches, well, I've done all the things, or I've been doing this for years. I had a client recently join the BDC. Amanda, I've been coaching for 3 years. She said, I have never taken and had so much action in my business than coming into the BDC over the last 2 months, because you're actually making me, or encouraging you, to do the things that I've been resisting. And now I see that this is the thing, this is the reason why I don't have the client load that I do. And it is having conversations and not avoiding talking to people about what you do. So it could look as something as simple as you're having this great conversation in the DMs with a prospective client, and then you never say, hey, would you love to talk more about this and hop on a quick discovery call so I can see how I can best serve you? Or, hey, here's a link to my upcoming workshop. I think this would be a great way for you to, dive more into my content. Or when it comes to sharing your offers, you're like, well, I talk about money all the time, or health and fitness, or business all the time. They should just know I'm a coach. And the reality is people do not, right? Think about how busy our lives are. We need to have things like very spelled out for us and given very precise steps on how to take action to connect with you deeper. And the second is just having conversations. When you're at the grocery store, you're in a networking event, or you're at a neighbor's house and somebody says, hey, what do you do? You're not like, well, I used to, but now I'm trying to get this coaching thing off the ground. You're like, no, I'm a health coach. No, I'm a money coach. No, I'm a coach for whatever the case is. So if you're listening to this and you fall into one of those camps where you're not talking about being a coach, then negate everything I'm about to talk about. You have to start talking about it. That's just the reality. I struggle to have like to want to teach strategy and do all these things if you can't talk about the fact that you're a coach. First step is talking about talking about the fact that you're a coach, and just leaning into the GOAT mindset that I talked about on episode 1. So if you're just finding my podcast for the first time, or you missed episode 1 of 2024, go back and listen to Developing a GOAT Mindset, because this is going to be the catalyst that helps you begin to have conversations. And that same client I was referencing sent a message and said, I invited them to a workshop. It's getting easier. I'm starting to talk about my offers. It's getting easier. Right? If you're walking past somebody in the grocery store, you don't know that they sell Girl Scout cookies if they don't tell you, right? So think about this. They don't know you're selling coaching services if they don't tell you. Girl Scout cookies, I don't even know where that came from, but just roll with it. All right. So we have to talk about our offers, and that is the most important starting point. And then we can dive into all the rest of the things that I'm going to cover inside the episode. So here are things that I believe are necessary for you to begin to find clients in 2024. We first need to talk about the industry as a whole in 2024. The industry is not shrinking, it's growing. It's for many reasons, right? Projected to be a $12 billion industry this year, if that number is still accurate. I looked for data, and that's still as accurate as I find as of now. Why is the industry growing massively? Well, a few reasons. It's low barrier. Literally, tomorrow you could decide you want to be a coach. You don't have to apply to do that. You just have to call yourself a coach. So the barrier of entry is minimal to nothing, right? And there's not a lot of overhead to being a coach. You just maybe need a computer or borrow somebody's computer at that. So there's a lot of people jumping in. And I would say that it appears that in the industry often that it's just easy to make cash, and you have a lot of this kind of old bro manly marketing out there that is very misleading to the consumer. And so we're like, oh, that person made 30K in 2 days. Yeah, I want that. And then we dive in and we're like, oh shoot, that's not the norm, nor is it really the reality for many. And the other reason I think that the industry is growing rapidly is just like people love helping people. And when we've been inspired on our journey and we've had this transformation, it's kind of like you have like this secret weapon and you're like, I just want more people to know about it, right? For me, I was just like, coaching changed my life. I need to have more, I need to help more people. I have this zone that I can help people in. And it's also because there's freedom, right? There's freedom. We can work from anywhere. We can set our schedules. So it's no surprise why the industry is growing so vastly. What that means, though, is that you and I, we need to do things our own way. We need to stand out. As you know, we need to have our own frameworks. We need to not blend in. We need to be different. And so here are a few things that I'm going to really walk you through, 3 key steps, in my opinion, that are necessary to find clients this year and always. But I'm going to double down on them and talk about some specific strategies. So please get your pen and paper ready. Okay. Step number 1. Go to where you are not known. And I'm going to say that again. Go to where you are not known. You will not find clients in the same communities you've always been in, going to the same like neighborhood community, going to the same people, telling it to your friends over and over again. In order to become known, we have to go to the places where our ideal clients hang out and become known. So let's brainstorm some ways that we can do this. 1, you could join some networking communities that are in person. You could join, another idea is you could join online communities. So if I'm a speech coach for toddlers, I'm probably going to join not just communities that are speech coaches because they're my competition. I'm going to go join communities where moms hang out of toddlers. Could be like snack communities that talk about preparing snacks for toddlers, could talk about learning communities and all sorts of things. I'm going to go to the places where my ideal client hangs out. And I'm not going to be sleazy and pitch myself. I'm just going to add a shit ton of value there. So when people ask questions, I'm just going to go in and be active and post and respond, unattached to the fact that I am going to gain clients. By nature of being a servant's heart and focusing on just helping that one, help one person, right? Then that is going to, people are going to be like, oh, I like her or I like him. And that is going to, they're going to come follow your account. They're going to be interested. They're going to engage. And then there's going to be a domino effect that is there. Going to where you are not known is also doing things like I'm doing right now, podcasting. I can use this as a tool to get into people's ears that they do not know me, or a friend might share this with somebody and they're like, oh, listen to this girl's podcast. It's so fantastic. Share away. By the way, shameless plug, I'd love for you to do that with this episode. I would like for you to help me get into ears that don't know me. So if you find that the rest of the episode is really valuable, then please share it with a friend. You could just copy the link, text it to them, DM it to them. And I always love when you guys are listening and you show me. So take a screenshot right now, post it on your stories, tag me. Let's start a conversation about the episode so I can hear what really resonated with you. And so you have to go to where you are not known and add value. And when the conversation feels appropriate, that's when you can invite them to your offer. More to come on that shortly. The second piece that I want to talk about is this. You must pick the machine you're going to pour into this year. So step 2 is really add value. I want you to be adding value in the world. So if that means that you're going to go and do workshops where you're not known, or podcasts where you're not known, or be in communities where you're not known, pick the communities or a few of them, right? Maybe you decide I'm going to pour into Facebook groups and I'm going to host workshops this month. That's going to where you are not known. Step 2, though, is the adding value piece. I mentioned that in networks, right? You're going to pour into people. But the second is like add value through your content. Your machine is the way you keep showing up consistently to do that. So I'll use myself as an example. My machine is webinars. This year, I'm doing almost one a week. And so I'm going to show up and I'm going to keep pouring into that machine. Whether 5 people show up or 500 people show up, I'm going to consistently add value. I'm going to teach the things I know. I'm going to pour into people, whether it's, a specific talking about pricing or signature frameworks or being in demand, whatever the case is, I'm going to keep doing that. And here's where I see so many people fall off is they do it once and their expectations aren't met, or they don't get a client and they're like, well, I did that, but I didn't get a client. Yeah, so what? Me either the first time, but I learned a shit ton. So I'm going to do it again because I just put all of this energy into hosting a webinar. So it's like wasted time if I don't do it and try to do it better the next time and get more people. Right? I had a client in the BDC recently on an open coaching call say, I had a workshop. I had 2 people end up showing up. I think she had 10 sign up, which is awesome. 2 people showed up. One was like her cousin. And she goes, and then some random person. And I was like, whoa, pump the brakes. You just had a random person that didn't know you show up and commit to 1 hour of learning from you. Please do not discount this, you guys. That one person is all it takes to turn that into a client that's worth thousands of dollars. And what if they renew? Then it's thousands upon thousands of dollars. So we have to let go of this like big, huge expectation of what it looks like for people who've been doing it for 10 years and realize that we can like actually make cash with a very small audience in the beginning. But if you quit, I promise you're not going to make money at all and you're not going to serve clients at all. That I can promise if you quit. So go to where you're not known, and 2, add value through your machine choice, whether it's workshops, live stages, podcast pitching, challenges, networking communities. Those to me are different machines, and you're going to pick one and you're just going to focus on it, or pick 2 at max. And that's what you're going to do. You're going to show up and do that thing consistently. I promise if you listen to this episode and do this year, you're going to see your business impacted tenfold. But the key here is being consistent, right? So when you're adding value, what you're doing is you're giving them something, right? You're teaching them. You could be asking questions if it's a workshop. You're supporting them. You're creating downloadable resources, whatever version of this. And so what you're doing is you're saying, I'm an expert. You're adding credibility. People are building trust with you. They're starting to believe that you could be the answer to their solution. And what it's doing is bridging curiosity for them on, well, what could be next with her or him? What might happen next with them? So step 3 of this is you have to give a call to action, which means call to action CTA, which means that you are asking them to come take the next step with you. So that could be inviting them to download a free resource. That could be inviting them to hop on a sales call. That could be pitching your offer, with a landing page or a sales page right on a webinar. But it is necessary for you to let them know that there is more with you, that there are more ways to work with you than just the free thing. And that goes back to step number 1. You can do all this work like me in the beginning. I remember I would have some workshops that were like the information I was providing was next level. People were like, Amanda, you're so awesome. I love this. And I was like, why isn't anybody buying though? And that's because I wasn't telling anybody I had coaching opportunities. right? I wasn't on the webinar saying, I'm opening up my calendar and I'm open to having a few sales calls if you want to do one-to-one coaching with me, right? That sounded pretty choppy in that way, but it was a lot more beautiful once I got it figured out. But they have to know that there is more. So let me recap those 3 steps. Go to where you're not known, add value through your machine. 3, give a call to action, invite them to your offer. And so with these 3 steps, there's a few important pieces that I just want to emphasize. You have to stay consistent. Like I said, don't do just one webinar, do 15. Don't try to just do it once and then show up once and think, oh, that didn't work, right? It's a compound effort over time. You get better, more people talk about it, more people see it. Remember, the odds are not in our favor when it comes to showcasing and using social media exclusively. Only 3% of your audience is seeing it, so that you have to talk about it a lot. So the first one takes, again, the most time and effort. So keep, rinse, and repeating. And so maybe you're just like, I'm going to do one webinar a month, one webinar every other month. Start somewhere and go. Number 2 is set reasonable expectations. So when it comes to expectations, this is where I got a little bit, I struggled, is I just envisioned in the beginning that I would have like everybody on the webinar show up. So I had like 50 people sign up, and I was like, why are there only 28 people here? Well, what I didn't know is that's industry average. In fact, it's more than industry average. So just so I can share with you, 25% is basically the average show up rate for a webinar. So of the people that sign up, roughly 25% will show up. And of that, 3 to 10% will convert to the next thing, which could be a sales call, which could be an offer. And that's very dependent upon whether it's an actual offer or a sales call or the price point of the offer. So that means roughly if you have 100 people sign up, roughly 25 to 30 will show up. And of that, you'll have 1 to 2 sales. That's why business is really a game of numbers. But we have to have reasonable expectations and don't use our emotions to judge our success. Right? So when a client's like, oh, I had 10 people sign up and 2 to 3 show up, I'm like, boom, you're right. You're right within reasonable expectations and averages. So I like those numbers. Now we just need to make the sign up more. How can we do that? And so just remember that expectations are a killer of momentum, because we need to know what reasonable expectations are. So we're not telling ourselves we're not getting there fast enough, it's not working, which is where I see so many people get stuck. Heard me talk about it in that land of the lost, that gap between expectations and reality. And so I hope this episode really gets you thinking about, am I taking these 3 steps? And if you want more support, this is the work that we do inside the Best Damn Coach consistently. We have a specific framework. I go into way more detail about the client attraction system that we teach. We're there to coach you on it consistently, both 24/7 inside of our community Facebook and also on open live coaching calls. We have 2 90-minute open coaching calls every single month where you get to ask specific feedback. We can brainstorm with you. You've got like this group of coaches around you that can share what's working for them as well, because inevitably this is where we're going to spend the majority of our time as coaches, especially in the beginning when we have no clients or we have a small client roster. Is we're finding the ways that work best for us to create the machine that produces ideal clients in our world. So I am rooting for you in 2024, and I'd love to know which part of this episode most speaks to you. What are you doing in 2024 to really focus? What's your machine of choice? So if you're listening, I'd love to hear back from you. Shoot me a DM on Instagram at @awalkmyway. I would love to know what machine you're focusing in on this year. And also, if you're interested in learning more about what it means and what we do inside of the Best Damn Coach, head on over to amanda-walker.com/Best Damn Coach. You can hear all the details about what's happening inside of our community now. And I will see you on YouTube, and you'll be able to hear me next week on whatever podcasting platform you're listening to. And until then, go coach them up.